No.
So every once in a while, I do like a request night where I don't have a specific theme and let you guys decide what we want to work on. So I'm doing that tonight because sometimes, like, depending on schedule, like this week we had the holiday, and then also one of my other classes is canceled due to an event at the library. So I have, like, only a few classes this week, and so it's a good time that I just let it be an all request night, instead of like actually planning it out. And it's a really good exercise for me because I get to use a different part of my own brain, where it's on the fly, and I get to just kind of work with what you guys are interested in doing. So, hi, Annie. So what would you like to work on this evening? Is there any, and if not, I always have something planned, but I just want to leave it up to you guys. So I'm not going to just say, oh, well, guess you have nothing to work on. We're heading out. So any requests? Okay. Yep. Always a good one. Hip flexors. Okay. They kind of go hand in hand. So perfect. All right. Anything else? Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay, so low back hip flexors it is. That's what we'll focus on tonight. So the hip flexors and lower back, of course, have a powerful relationship because the hip flexors are in here, and they're also part of what's called the psoas. It connects our spine to our legs. And so we sit a lot, so this part is always creased. So you can think of like a piece of clothing that we can't get that crease out. We're ironing in, and we just can't get it out because this is becoming like a permanent position in our fascia. And the fascia is always adapting to our body positions. So if we do this, our fascia is shorter in the front, longer in the back. If we're sitting in this position, the fascia is in that creased position. And then we try to stand up, and the pelvis tends to go like this, and it tips forward because this is tight in here. So we can't always get into that straight neutral pelvis, which is more beneficial for our lower back. So if we have tight hip flexors, it's often going to tighten up the lower back, weaken the lower abdominals. So it really goes hand in hand. So we'll work on opening up the hip flexors, but then also some soothing stuff for the lower back as well. All right, so go ahead, come on your back, and we'll get started. Let's do a slight sip of that. All right, so as you come down, let's go ahead, straighten the legs for a moment, because I'm not going to make you stay there if you're uncomfortable, but I want you to just notice what it feels like in the curve of your lower back. So when we put the legs out straight, if our hip flexors are tight, oftentimes it's not going to feel so great to have our legs out straight because there's excess curvature in the lower back. So notice, and then let's all bend our knees so we don't have to be in that discomfort. And if it felt pretty good for you, you might be a little more open there in the hip flexors or not have that excessive pelvic tilt. And now go ahead and just come into your breathing. If you want to leave legs out straight, that's fine too. And as you breathe, we're going to start to have nice breath out into the rib cage area. When we breathe into our rib cage, we're starting to utilize more of our deep core muscles, which can be supportive of our lower back and also supportive of the area around the psoas. So psoas is tied into our diaphragm, bless you, through the fascia. So place your hands on your rib cage and just go ahead and start to breathe out into the ribs. So as if when you breathe in, your hands could expand. So bring the breath in there, right where your hands are. And then as you exhale, kind of feel like there's a little bit of a contraction there so that the ribs are narrowing, widening, narrowing, widening as you breathe. And this is our diaphragmatic breath. Take a few more rounds. So the hip flexors are not only, this anatomical function of connecting upper body, lower body, front body, back body, connected in with the psoas being that structural muscle deep to our spine. It's also known as a fight, flight, freeze muscle. So if we're under a lot of stress, the psoas tends to get a little grippy, a little tight, and it's enabling us to do things like some energy going if we need to run from danger or we need to fight something off. So big relationship between our stress response and the psoas hip flexors. Now let's go ahead and begin pelvic tilts because they're integral to the lower back and the hip flexors. Place your hands now down lower on the fronts of your pelvis, front of the hip bones. And then inhale, go into an arched lower back. Tipping your tailbone forward, even pressing it into the floor a little bit. And then flatten your lower back. And just simply go into these rocks. Inhale, lower back arches. Exhale, flatten. So at your own pace, just go ahead and do your little pelvic tilts. And just notice as you do this, is there any discomfort? Does it feel tight anywhere in the lower back? Especially as you go into the arching phase. Does one feel better than the other? Just kind of making some mental notes as to what you're noticing here in your lower back. Let's do a few more rounds. Just establishing a nice, easy rocking motion. And when we do these little pelvic tilts, it can help repattern if we're stuck. So sometimes we get stuck in too much arch or too much flattening of our lower back. All right, so go ahead and pause that. And keeping your hands right on the front of your pelvis there, we're gonna go into a little right-left rocking. So first we did up-down rocking, now we're gonna go right-left. So rock to the right side of your pelvis and then to the left. And just rock back and forth, trying to keep your knees pretty still. So try not to do a windshield wiper. I want you to see if you can isolate into the back of your pelvis. So separate your feet about hips distance and then rocking right to left with as little movement in your legs as possible. So see if you can just rock across the back of the pelvis, the back of the sacrum. This one's also nice for any SI joint problems. As if we have a pelvic tilt and tight hip flexors, oftentimes that also goes hand in hand with SI joint problems and sciatica problems. All right, and then go ahead and pause that, come back to stillness, take a breath or two. And the next one, we're gonna slide up and down. So instead of a rocking motion, it's going to be a sliding motion. So again, hands on the front of your pelvis, slide the right side of your hip up towards your shoulder. Again, try not to move your feet too much. And then slide the left side up towards your shoulder. Nothing is lifting off the ground. Think of it as like a swivel. So swivel your pelvis, your hips, right to left, and just feel into the sensations you're noticing in your lower back. And then try to slow it down, make it nice and fluid, very slow, mindful swivel. Hello. You are in luck, Chris. It's all request night and we are doing lower back. So you're good in good company tonight. So let's go ahead and take 2 more little swivels on the lower back. And then come back to a pause and just take a moment there, breathe in, breathe out. All right, so the next move we're gonna do is called the rolling bridge. And I want you to imagine your spine is like a string of pearls. And each segment of the spine is a little separate little pearl. And you wanna kind of differentiate between each segment of your spine. So we're gonna go back into that little pelvic tilt. So go ahead and tip your pelvis forward and your lower back arches away from the floor a bit. And then go into the flatten. We'll do that a few rounds and eventually we're gonna start to peel up off the floor. A little arch and a little flatten. Now, the next time you flatten your lower back, start to peel your tailbone off the floor and lift up about to your sacrum. So as if you could slide your hand under the back of the lower part of your back and then come back down. And as you come back down, go into the arch. So lower back lifts. Lower back flattens and we peel up. Peel your tailbone up as if you could slide your hands under your bottom and then come back down. Thinking about one vertebra at a time. Arch and flatten. Now this time, let's go a little bit farther. Peel up as if you're lifting from the tip of your tailbone. Lift the tip of your tailbone and now lift your lumbar area off the ground. So a little higher. So that's the curve of your low back. And then come down one segment at a time. Like you're trying to lay down a string of pearls in a straight line. And then come down, arch your back. Tip your tailbone forward. Flatten your lower back. Peel up. Slowly lifting your tailbone. And now go all the way towards your bottom rib cage. Come down as if you want to make space between those vertebrae. Like you want to lengthen that string of pearls. And then your tailbone comes down last. Go into your arch. And then again, peel up. One vertebra at a time. Each time, go a little higher. Now lift a little more of your rib cage off the ground. Back down, one vertebra at a time, lengthening them away from each other. Tailbone last, and then arch your back. All right, so go ahead and keep going and see if you could eventually, get as much of your spine off the ground as you can. Do your best not to splay your knees apart. And watch out for hamstring cramps because as we now lift higher, there's a little more demand on the backs of the legs. So if you get cramps, maybe don't go up as high. Okay, but do be mindful about how you lift, how you lower. It's more important to kind of create that space between the vertebra than it is to do like more rounds, right? So go slowly and just feel into your spine. Now we're going to start to add arms. So the next time you come down, you're arching your back. And then you're flattening, you're peeling up, and we're going to start to lift the arms and take the arms overhead. And see if you can get the arms all the way to the floor. And then press your tailbone up. So the lower spine is lengthened. Keep the arms up. Start to lower one vertebra at a time. Arms are going to stay on the ground if you can. If you need to bring them down, bring them down. One segment at a time. We come all the way down and then let the arms come back down. As the arms come back down, go into your arch. And then lift up from the tip of your tailbone. Slowly lift the arms up and overhead. Keep the arms overhead and press the tailbone up so we engage the glute muscles. And then come down slowly, keeping those arms overhead. Coming down one vertebra at a time, lengthening as you come down. And then once you're all the way down, let the arms come back down. So 2 more rounds, just like that. Flattening, curling up, lift the arms. So if we're weaken our glutes, that can affect our lower back as well. You know, all the sitting is bad for the hip flexors, but also weakens our glute muscles. Come down. Creating that differentiation between each segment. We want space between the discs, right? So when we're compressed, there can be more disc dysfunction. Things like slip discs, bulging discs. Really good to keep our spine healthy and decompress. Arms stay up, last round. And this time, take a pause as you come down and breathe as best you can into the rib cage, the belly. Nice diaphragmatic breath. All right, take your arms out to a T, widen your feet as wide as the mat, go into a simple windshield wiper. And as you get into a windshield wiper, you'll notice you're already going to get a little bit of hip flexor stretch. If you want a little bit more, start to press into your feet as you go to the end of the twist. Press into the edges of your feet, and that'll give you a little more sensation. You might also turn your head opposite of your knees. Have your arms out to a T for this one, right in line with your shoulders. Nice and easy. All right. Coming back to the center. We're going to straighten the left leg and keep the right leg bent. And then walk your right foot over toward the right edge of your mat. This movement is called unwinding. It helps unwind tightness in our fascia, but really works a lot on the right hip flexor in this case. Take your arms out to a T. Now from here, press into your right foot and drop your right knee over to the left. Look over your right shoulder, roll over onto your left outer hip, and really press that right hip up and forward, opening the front of the hip. And then exhale, come back to the neutral, back to center. Okay, inhale, press in your foot. Look over your right shoulder, roll onto your left hip, and then release and come back. Now keep going. Maybe you want to do some add-ons. So if we want to, we can press our arms down into the floor, the head into the floor to help use the floor as a prop. And that might give us a little more opening on the front of that hip. The other thing we can do to help this process is to give a little squeeze to our right glute muscle. So as you roll into that twist, give your right glute muscle a little bit of a squeeze. Now, if that causes lower back pain, then you're going to skip any of those enhancements, right? If pressing into the floor is too much, or if you're engaging your glute is too much, then you'll skip that. So now let's do a few more on your own and just go into noticing what you're feeling in your body. That's the most important thing of somatic work, is to be aware and to connect our brain to our body. And that's how we start to create neuroplastic changes in our system. Make sure you inhale as you go into the little twist, and then exhale to relax. All right, let's do 3 more rounds. We want to repeat these for a good minute or two. Finish out 1 more round. And then we'll come back and release the right leg and just take a pause. Feel that right side after that opening of the right hip flexor. You notice the energy flow all through your right leg, right hip, right torso. All right, let's go ahead and we'll switch over to the other side. So bend the left knee. Walk your left foot a little over to the left side of your mat. Arms are out to a T. Push in your left foot and drop the knee over to the right. Look over your left shoulder. And then exhale to come back to the start. Inhale, you're rolling towards your right outer hip, looking over the shoulder. And then release on an exhale. Remember, you can add any enhancements. Maybe you're pressing into the floor with your arms or your head. And maybe you're engaging that glute muscle. Noticing where you have any restriction in your body. So even though we're working on the hip flexor, you might feel it other places. You might feel it in your chest, in your arm, in your neck. Take just a few more rounds here. Getting into a flow, tuning into your body. Always good to notice if one side feels a lot different than the other. Our bodies are rarely symmetrical in our habits and our patterns. So good to take notice. We'll do one more round here. And then let's go ahead, release. Slide that leg out and just take a pause. Now notice that left side of the body, any changes and sensation and energy flow. Really good to have some pauses, time for the brain to notice what you just did. Okay. Now from here, let's go ahead, bend that right knee again. And we're gonna bring the right knee into the chest, interlace your hands around your shin bone. By the way, you're welcome to have a blanket under your head if you feel like, your head's dropping back. Always feel free to support yourself. Now left leg nice and straight, flex the left foot, so toes point up toward the ceiling. We're gonna take an inhale, and as you exhale, pull the right knee even closer and lift your head and chest, pull it in toward the knee. Now as you inhale, come down. Go into a little bit of an arch. So you're gonna let the knee pull away from your shoulders, from your chest, and then exhale, curl up. And then just go ahead and repeat that a few more rounds. Inhale, knee moves away. Exhale, we pull it in. And if you don't want to lift the head, that's okay too. If you want to just pull the knee in. So this one is adding more strength to the hip flexor on the right side. Left side is getting lengthened. So when we're in a seated position, not only is that hip flexor in that, bent position, but it's also in a passive position. Really good to work on some strength. Really lengthen out the exhalation phase. That's that strengthening aspect here. One more. Okay, keep that knee hugging into the chest. We're gonna stay in the same position, but let your head relax now. So now we're gonna push the shin into the hands. And at the same time, pull with your hands. It activates some hip flexor activity there, some strength again, and then relax it into the chest. Okay, so again, push the shin bone away from you and your hands are kind of pulling at the same time. We create a little resistance and then we let it go, let it draw in and repeat a few more rounds. Push the shin bone away into your hands and then let it relax and come back in. Okay, last one, and then go ahead and set that foot down, straighten the leg. Maybe give it a little shake and take a breath or two. A lot of times, when we have issues going on, we always want to just stretch it. And the stretching can temporarily make things feel good, but a lot of times we also have to wake dormant muscles up. So we need a balance of both releasing tightness in the body, but also waking up muscles that create compensation patterns. And so when the hip flexors are in that passive kind of 90-degree angle, then other muscles tend to grip and get tight, like our lower back. Okay, let's go ahead and do the other leg. So we're going to bring that knee into the chest, interlace your hands around the shin. And this first round, we're going to pull the knee in. So we take an inhale, move the knee a little away, maybe a little arch to your back. And then exhale, pull it in, optional, lift your head, chest, shoulders, and then repeat. Inhale, and then exhale, engage. Keep going, really emphasizing that exhale phase. Do your best to keep your right thigh grounded, your right foot a little more flexed, because then we're also at the same time opening, lengthening the right hip flexor. We've got 2 more of these. Now after this next one, relax your head and neck down, and then we'll do that opposite pattern. So now we're gonna push the shin bone away, straightening the arms, and then relax it in toward the chest, okay? So inhale, push the shin into the hands. Exhale, draw it in. And we're gonna do one more of these. All right, and then go ahead, release, stretch that leg out, take a couple of breaths. So we're gonna do one more kind of, activating little movement pattern here. We're gonna grab one of our blocks. Now we're gonna bring the right knee up off the floor and put your block right in the front of your thigh. The block is kind of the long flat way. And then we're gonna put our elbow on the other end. So we trap the block in between our knee and our elbow. And that could be a place to stay and work. So that might be enough, because here, just doing that, we're activating the hip flexor. Other side, we're gonna lengthen into a full body stretch. We'll inhale and lengthen the left side, and as you exhale, bring the left knee and elbow in for a tap, Inhale, extend it. It could hover or it could go to the floor. And then exhale, we tap. Now the whole time we're pressing the right elbow and the right knee together, activating the right hip flexor. And on the left side, we're lengthening the hip flexor, but then we're also engaging it as we pull it in. Inhale to expand, exhale to tap it in. If you need a break, take a break. We've got a few more rounds. Arm goes overhead on the inhale, exhale, elbow, knee tap. 2 more. Also strengthens our lower abdominals. Big part of lower back issues is weak lower abdominals. All right, bend the left knee, release your block, right foot to the floor. Take a break. Maybe you want a windshield wiper or stretch it out. And then we've got another side to go. So we're gonna put the left knee over the hip, bring your block in the front of that thigh, trap it with your elbow. And maybe you wanna just work on that, that's good. Otherwise, we're gonna go into a full body stretch on your right side. Inhale. Exhale, tap elbow to knee. Inhale, you could hover or go all the way to the floor. Exhale, tap. Keep going. Take breaks if you need to. Try not to overarch your lower back. If you are overarching your lower back, don't go as far. So maybe I go part way and then elbow to knee. So a little modification is always good because we don't want to go into our compensation patterns. So if we're weak in our hip flexor and our core, we're probably going to overuse our lower back. So how far you extend is up to you. 2 more. Good, and then right foot down, left foot down, release, windshield wipers. Or any other thing you feel might be good. You don't have to do the same releases I'm doing. So we're gonna move next into up, slip, down, slip movements, which are lengthening for the hip flexor psoas. So we're gonna come back to center and straighten both legs. We're gonna start by just working on legs. Eventually we'll have the option of adding arms. We're gonna flex both feet. So the feet are flat, as if you're pushing on a wall in front of you. And then we're gonna slide the right leg forward and the left leg draws up. And then switch, slide your left leg forward. Right leg draws up, right hip draws up. And then go side to side. And it's called up, slip, down, slip. We feel a movement in the back of the pelvis, which is very stimulating for stiffness in the lower back. You might let your head roll opposite of that lengthening leg. So as I slide my right leg forward, my head might go over to the left shoulder. Go slowly and mindfully, feeling and sensing into your lower back, your hip flexors. Feel how one side of your waist shortens as the opposite leg lengthens. We're also kind of tightening and then releasing some of those lower back muscles as we do this. So that hip that hikes up, you might feel those lower back muscles engage. And then as you reach the leg away, those muscles lengthen. Okay, come back to a pause. And now take both arms over your head into a full body stretch. Now, if you have any shoulder impingement or any shoulder problems, you could continue to just do the legs. So now inhale, reach through your right arm, right leg. Lengthen, lengthen as if you're going to touch the opposite sides of the room. And then exhale, relax to a neutral position. Inhale, left side, reach through the arm, through the leg. Exhale to neutral. Now, as you do this, I want you to feel like you're moving from deep in your hip joint, deep in your shoulder joint, like you're trying to move the limb out of the joint. You're trying to elongate. Make sure you have an exhale in neutral before you go to your other side. Your head might roll to the opposite side like we did before. Another thing I like to add on is trying to press the thigh into the floor. So as I reach through my one side, left side I'm on right now, I'm gonna press my left thigh down. And that'll help iron out that hip flexor a little bit more by keeping that thigh more grounded. If we're tight in the hip flexor, the thigh tends to pop up off the ground. Now focus a little more on your breath. The next time you reach, inhale as long as you can. And then exhale as long as you can. Push through your heel of the straightening leg, the lengthening leg, so we create more space. This really works on lengthening hip flexors, psoas, lower back muscles. And then after you finish this next round, let your arms come back down. Just take a pause. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, now we're gonna grab our block again. So grab a block, and this time we're lifting our hips up, and we're gonna slide the block under the back of your pelvis, and we call that supported bridge. Just like we did those rolling bridges in the beginning, but now we're in a static position for a moment. We're gonna repeat some of that up, slip, down, slip work with the block, because now with the block here, it's going to elongate that front of the hip even more. But before we do that, let's go ahead and bring that right knee back into the chest and extend your left leg out long. And notice how straight it gets. So it might be pretty bent. That's an indication of that tightness in the front of the hip. Now, just like we excuse me, just like we did before, take an inhale, exhale, pull the knee in. Now at the same time, reach your left heel toward the top of your mat. And then inhale, soften. Exhale, pull the knee in, strain that other leg even more, reach through the heel. And then let's repeat that a few times. Small movement, you're not going very far, but feel how that opens up the front of your left hip. Okay, now let the right foot come to the floor. Keep the left leg straight. Take your left arm overhead. Right arm down toward your foot. Okay, look over your right shoulder. And now inhale, reach through your left arm, left leg, and slide your right hand down toward your foot. Exhale, relax, back to neutral. Inhale, reach through the leg and the arm, slide your right hand down. We create that little side crunch. And then release. Now, if this is too much up on the block, feel free to do it flat on the floor as another option. Just with the block lifting, it opens up the front of that hip flexor a little bit more. And as I contract my right side, the left side has a little bit more space to really stretch. One more. They're a little more intense, so we're not gonna, take a ton of time on each one. Go ahead and rebend, both feet flat. You need to come off your block for a moment, feel free, otherwise just stay as you are. And then we're gonna do the other side. So now left knee is gonna come into the chest. Right leg straight, if you can. Now again, it might not be very straight. It might be more bent, but straighten it as best you can. Take an inhale, exhale, pull the left knee in as you reach your right heel forward. And then repeat. Inhale, exhale, knee draws in, reach the center of your right heel forward. Now, you might tend to have that leg roll in or out. See if you could keep that leg neutral. So we're not letting it roll in or out because then we just kind of, again, we compensate. All right, go ahead and let the left foot come to the floor. Take your right arm overhead into that full body stretch. And then on the inhale, we're gonna reach through the right arm, right leg. Slide the left hand down toward your left foot, looking over your left shoulder. And then release back toward neutral and repeat. Don't always have to feel like we have to overexert either. Sometimes even doing the most subtle movement is enough, especially if we have any kind of pain, right? We want to go gentle on ourselves. The more we have pain, the more we want to be gentle. So kind of just like tune in to what feels good in your body. Just one more here. And then we'll release the arm, bend both knees, take a pause in your supported bridge. All right, let's go ahead and lift the hips, slide the block out, and come all the way down. Pause when you get there before we move on. Just let your spine neutralize after being up on the block. Sometimes it's a little cranky after that, so give it a moment to be flat. Breathe in, breathe out. Feet as wide apart as your mat. Windshield wipers. Once again. Windshield wipers, so good for loosening up the lower back. All right, now the next time your knees go to the right, we're gonna leave them there. So knees to the right. You may need blocks here. So I'm gonna show you options. You might put a block under your right knee. You might put a block under your left knee or both, okay? If you're okay, you don't need any blocks there, okay? This depends on if you have any discomfort. We're gonna take the arms overhead into a full body stretch. Hold your left wrist with your right hand and turn your left palm into center and look over your right shoulder. Now, as you inhale, traction your left arm, pull on your wrist, roll toward your right hip, and push into your left foot. And then simply relax back down, but keep the hold of the wrist. Inhale. Traction your arm, roll toward that right hip a little, push into your left foot, exhale, soften. Now, those of you are pretty open here. If you want more, take your right foot up on top of your left thigh, and that's gonna pin that left thigh downward. And you repeat the same thing with that foot on top, but don't feel like you have to do that, okay? So if the foot on the floor is enough, then stick with that. I'm just giving options for anyone who feels like they want a little bit more. So either with the foot on top or not. All right, and then relax the arms down, both feet flat, come back to center, even out your hips and breathe. Maybe you need a little rocking. And then go back into windshield wipers before we go to the other side. And just, remember, later if you notice things are feel a little sore, you might remember to back off and be a little more gentle on yourself the next time you practice. If you overdo it, you might really feel it the next day. So always gotta be in tune with what the body needs at any given moment. Knees stay to the left. Decide if you need blocks for support. And then arms overhead, full body stretch. Hold your right wrist, turning your right palm into center. Head looks over the left shoulder. It gives you more room to straighten that arm. And then inhale, traction the arm, push in your right foot. And feel that opening on the front of the right hip. And then relax. Okay. And repeat. Again, some of you might decide it feels good to put that foot on top and it pins that thigh down a little more. You may not get as much of a, like a little bit of a hip movement, but it's gonna maybe open up the side around that pathway of the psoas a little more. So it all depends. It's not really necessarily more advanced. It's just what feels good for your body. Let's do one more round. And then we'll let the arms come down, bring the legs back to neutral, even yourself out. And just go through one more round there, windshield wipers, just to make sure we haven't accumulated too much tension in our lower back here. Now we're gonna grab our tennis balls for the remainder of our practice. So grab the doubles right now. And we're gonna give a little squeeze so that they're not right next to each other, just like a finger's distance in between the two balls. And then lift your hips up and put the balls right above your sacrum. So it's at the lower part of your spine. This is where we often get the most compression and tightness. And you're just gonna let your body drape over the balls. Take a breath or two. If you feel like they're too far apart, then maybe, because sometimes once you put your pressure on, mine slid apart a little too far. So you want to have a little space so that they're on either side of your spine. Okay. All right, now go back to that little rocking right to left. So you're not quite in a full windshield wiper. You're just rocking your pelvis right to left so that the balls just pressurize the fascia of the lower spine. Okay, now come back to stillness, move them up a tiny bit. So they're a little bit above that rim of the pelvis. They're now more in the lumbar curve. And again, just adjust to it. Take a breath or two before we move. Breathe in, breathe out. And now interlace your hands behind the back of your head. And slide your right elbow towards your right hip. And your left elbow toward the wall behind you. And then switch. So it's another kind of swivel. You make a little bit of a curve with the side body. And you're just sliding your elbows and your upper body right to left. Letting those balls pressurize the lumbar area. Now, if the balls are too much at any pose we do, always feel free to take them out. Or you could put padding on top of them. So you could put a blanket on top. You could bring an extra blanket. I always have a few extras in the back. So feel free to pad if you feel like you need some little bit of a buffer between the balls and your tissues. Back to the center. Keep your hands behind the back of the head, but just slide your bottom a little forward. So now you're maybe a little more middle to upper lumbar. Take a breath or two. Now, again, you might do, a little side to side or swiveling, or you can lift up your head and chest like you're going to do arch and curl, and that puts more pressure down into the balls. And then release your head down, arch your back away from the balls. Inhale, exhale, curl your tailbone up, curl up into that arch and curl. If it's too much, go back to the side swivel. All right, go ahead and release, and now slide those balls up a little higher. So now they're kind of right under your rib cage. It gives you a little bit of an arch to your lower back. And then widen your feet, go back to a windshield wiper. And just feel how the balls just kind of press in to some of those muscles along the spine. Go slowly. Okay, come back to the center. Move the balls a little back down toward the sacrum. And then go ahead and see if you could bring one knee up and into your chest. And just do a little side to side rocking. And you're just kind of sliding on the balls. And then let that foot come down and bring the other foot up off the floor, knee in toward the chest, and a little rocking side to side. And let that foot come down, take the balls away. Come all the way down and just pause. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel the energy flow through your whole body. So even though we pinpoint one area, the fascia release happens throughout your whole system. Okay, now take your single ball over on the right side. And we're going to be even a little more pinpointed now. And you're going to be somewhere to the right of your spine with that ball. Bring the right knee back into your chest. And again, you might kind of circle or sway. You could hold the knee, you could circle the knee, you can let your hands go and just draw little circles with your knee. So see what feels good. You can hold on or let that knee be loose and just kind of get in there a little deeper with the one ball. So as soon as we have the two balls, it's a little more diffused. When we go to one ball, it's a little more pinpointed, a little more precise. So maybe we don't always want to start with the single ball because it can be a little more intense. All right, release that foot down, take the ball away, and just take a moment before you go to your other side. Just feel that side release into the floor. And then let's go ahead and take the ball over onto the left side, somewhere in that lumbar, wherever it feels good for you. And then bring that left knee in. And again, you might circle it with or without hands, see what feels good, sway, rock. So again, the fascia is always a big culprit in what's going on in our bodies. If we're sitting and our spine is collapsing, the fascia starts to shorten and thicken, and then it pulls those vertebrae closer together, like on a more permanent basis. So we got to release the fascia so that the spinal segments called the facet joints are not so compressed. We can move the bones for like an adjustment, a chiropractic adjustment, but we also have to work on the soft tissue. And that's what we're doing here. All right, go ahead and release. Take that ball away. Pause. Now we're going to finish up with the clock face. Some of you guys have done this with me before. Very soothing for the lower back. We're going to take our pelvis and tip it forward like we're going into an arch and curl. But now roll toward your right hip and then up toward the top, around toward the left, and then down toward the tailbone. Make a circle like a clock face going around the clock face, where your tailbone is like 6 o'clock. And then we go over to the side and then up to 12 o'clock. And just imagine a clock face that you're going to go all around the clock. And just try not to move the knees a lot. They may move a little bit, but I want you to see if you could isolate a circle on the back of your pelvis. And then reverse. We'll take it the other direction. And sometimes, you know, it's going to feel more like a square, but we want to try and smooth those edges out. And we create more fluidity in the bony structure of the pelvis. Sometimes it gets locked down if we're spending a lot of time in one position, whether it's sitting or otherwise. Even standing in one place can be really hard on the lower back. Okay, so coming back now, bring both knees into your chest. Rock side to side. Okay, now hold behind the backs of your knees and drop your knees apart a little bit. Then take your feet up toward the ceiling. This is called the happy baby. And again, rock side to side. You might try to rock a little lower and then a little higher and then back down. So the more your knees are further away, you're going to rock lower. And as you pull the knees closer, you're going to rock higher. And then go ahead, give the knees one more hug into the chest. Now, for Shavasana, I'm going to recommend you grab your 2 blocks. And put them short end to short end. And you might have to sit up here and you can put a blanket on top and you might roll that blanket up and you make yourself a nice little shelf here and you can drape your legs over that little shelf and it helps relax that lower back curve. So go ahead and use that if it feels good for you. Do you need a blanket, Annie? Okay, so make any last minute adjustments and relax your back body into the ground. Take a couple of nice deep breaths into your abdomen, into your lower back, into your pelvis. So good breathing brings length to our spine. It helps stimulate the bones. It helps move the bones, shift the bones. It helps stimulate the fascia around the bones. So always remembering that our breath is key to so much in our body, in our health, also to our perception of pain. Now, as you scan through your body, notice any particular areas that still feel a little grippy or tender or tight. And just let there be a gentle awareness to that area and imagine that you could breathe directly into that place in your body. With every exhalation, imagine just releasing whatever is there that is causing that discomfort. Let it dissolve. Let it feel like it's widening instead of being so particular. Let it just open, widen, soften, and release. So I'm going to share a little reading as we continue to rest. This is called "The Breath is Something We Allow." Slowing down our breath takes little more than attention. Breathing is not an activity we need to accomplish. It is simply a process that we allow to happen. As we practice letting go of effort and feeling the ground support us, we begin to experience the natural rise and fall of our breath. We notice that after an exhale, our lungs spontaneously and organically fill again with air. The breath is simply waiting for more room so that it can fill us. And we can begin to see how our breath is our life partner. It is always there for us without question. similar to the way we learn to rely on the support of the ground. Becoming aware of our partnership with the breath reinforces our experience of connectedness, of not feeling alone. Your breath is talking to you all the time, and usually sweetly if you will listen. Your breath is the one saying, hey, I love you. It's a perfect tool for becoming present. First, the breath is continual and constant. It gives us the opportunity over and over, wherever we happen to be, to notice that this is an in-breath and this is an out-breath. In-breath, out-breath, in and out. Our breath is never the same. Everyone breathes differently and every breath is unique. When we observe our breath in all its variety and nuance, we are practicing sitting quietly with this process that is vital to our life, but also in a constant state of change. Every breath is new, and every breath brings us into the present moment. The breath is our metronome of now. And you don't have to even make an effort to breathe. In fact, you have to take away the effort. To inhale, you allow the breath to come to you. And to exhale, you simply get out of its way. So when we learn to allow the breath rather than sort of force the breath, brings us into deeper states of relaxation. In our practice today, we did a lot of work on the hip flexors and the psoas in an effort to help alleviate lower back strain. But it's also a vital part of our breathing. When our psoas is tight, contracted, shortened, weak, and our posture is off, our breath will also be compromised. So the added benefit to the work we did today is allowing more space for the breath. All right, let's take a moment now, just noticing the effect of your practice. Bringing in small movements when you're ready. Eventually, maybe you want to stretch or hug knees, come to your side in your own time. No rush. And just pause on your side. After a pause on your side, go ahead and make your way back up into a seated position, sitting up nice and tall. And we'll bring our two palms together in front of the heart space. Just take a nice deep breath in, and as you exhale, bowing inward to your heart. Namaste. Thanks for joining me tonight. You guys have a good evening. I'll see you next week. I'll be